Bhagavad Gita, as it is revisions, by Madhudvisa Das. For the first time, a complete computerized comparison of Srila Prabhupada's original 1972 Macmillan Bhagavad Gita, as it is, and the current ISKCON revised and enlarged edition is available. It is amazing and surprising to see all the changes so clearly pointed out. This comparison presents Srila Prabhupada's original Macmillan edition on the left-hand side and ISKCON's revised and enlarged edition on the right-hand side. The Macmillan edition comes from the Bhaktivedanta Database 2003 and does contain some scanning errors, with occasional words having incorrect characters. ISKCON's revised and enlarged edition comes from the Bhaktivedanta Database 3.1. Because of the way the diff program works, in some cases we had to make the format of the Sanskrit verses the same in both books, otherwise the program would go astray. Often in the original edition, a Sanskrit verse would be quoted on 4 lines, while in ISKCON's revised and enlarged edition, it is quoted on 2 longer lines. To achieve a clear comparison, we standardized the verses to the same number of lines in both books. At times, we also had to break or join paragraphs in one of the books so that the diff program would give proper output. We have compared only the translations and purports for chapters 1 to 18. For clarity, we have not compared the word-for-word synonyms, even though there are many changes in them. Apart from any scanning errors and the slight format adjustments we had to make, you will very clearly see all the changes between the 2 versions of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is in a way that was never possible before. One way to consider whether the revisions published in the 1983 version of the Bhagavad Gita as it is were necessary, is to make a side-by-side comparison of those revisions with the first edition text, as published by Macmillan in 1972. It was that text or manuscript to which Srila Prabhupada affixed his seal of approval. I have received your letter dated May 26, 1972, along with the blueprint copies of Bhagavad Gita, as it is from the Macmillan Company. It is very nice. So I shall be looking forward to seeing the entire manuscript in book sometime around 1st July, 1972. Letter to Jayadvaita, May 28, 1972. Macmillan had previously published a heavily abridged paperback edition, and as Srila Prabhupada later wrote, I was not very happy, therefore, when I had to minimize our original manuscript. Preface, 1972 edition. He was glad to see that Macmillan was publishing his entire manuscript in book form at last. Srila Prabhupada closely monitored both the preparation of the manuscript and the contract with Macmillan. On February 9, 1972, he wrote, I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated February 9, 1972. Along with the 2 copies of the Macmillan Company contract. As per your instructions, I have initialed same wherever your own initials have appeared. I noticed that in the carbon copy contract, you neglected to initial the last clause, B, of Section XX Special Provisions, although you had done so on the original copy. In addition, I have the phrase to 12 competitive material as follows, as well as the 48 pages of illustrations, for which the author reserves the right to publish for any purpose he may determine. Letter to Rupanuga, February 22, 1972. This letter illustrates Srila Prabhupada's supervision of details. Another example regarding the purposes in the 1972 manuscript being prepared for Macmillan, so far changing the wording in the verse or purport of 12:12 as described before, it may remain as it is. Letter to Jayadvaita, March 1972. Interestingly, 3 words in that purport to 1212, last, regulated, and stayed, were changed against these instructions after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance during the revision process. Srila Prabhupada commented in Vrindavan, June 27, 1977, "What can I do? Ultimate, it goes for editorial. They make changes, such changes." Obviously, Srila Prabhupada is referring here to unnecessary changes out of his control, not all changes. Editing means to make changes, but everyone makes mistakes particular to their service, and the particular mistake that editors tend to commit is unnecessary changes or hyper-editing of content. In the case of the 1983 Gita revisions, these were made without the author's option to review any changes while he was present. Therefore, notwithstanding the sworn internet testimonials of various ISKCON officials or reviewers, the technique of rummaging previous drafts or tapes to justify all the changes in a printed book appears dubious in the absence of a clear directive for such a procedure from the author, Srila Prabhupada. Be that as it may, in Srila Prabhupada's absence, a side-by-side comparison of purports from the 2 editions can be made by the light of his clear instructions. Our editing is to correct grammar and spelling errors only, without interpolation of philosophy or style. Letter to Rupanuga, 1970. Srila Prabhupada had also warned the original editor of his 1972 manuscript, Hayagriva Das, to be careful not to make needless changes in his purports, his personal ecstasies. Random House's authoritative Webster's College Dictionary, 2005 edition, defines interpolation as to introduce something additional or extraneous between other things or parts, interject, interpose to alter a text by the insertion of new matter, especially deceptively or without authorization to insert new or spurious matter in this manner. The following 2 columns of excerpts are from purports only, arranged to make a simple comparison between the 2 editions. It is up to the reader to judge by the result whether Srila Prabhupada's instructions are followed in these revisions of his personal ecstasies. Personal ecstasies mean that Srila Prabhupada is giving vigyan, or realized knowledge. As he said, "My purports are liked by people because it is presented as practical experience." May 23, 1977, Vrindavan.